All right. Welcome to November's user group. Focus this session is going to be on Agentforce nonprofit, specifically the volunteer management module. However, we will talk briefly about some of the other modules just to remind everyone about all the great features that are available within the nonprofit cloud, aka Agentforce nonprofit. So we'll just go through a bit of a presentation to help guide us. Just a reminder that this will be recorded, and the team will send out the recording and the slide deck after. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand during the presentation. It's not a problem, and we can pause and address it. Otherwise, you can put your questions into the chat at the very bottom right-hand corner, and the team will monitor and pause us if it's an opportune time, or we'll address them at the end. So we're here to talk a bit about Agentforce nonprofits, the nonprofit solutions that are available now within Salesforce happen to be the fundraising module. There's a marketing and engagement module, program and outcome management, volunteer management, which we are going to focus a bit more on today. They do have an IT operations module now, which is interesting, and grant making. For the purposes of today, though, we're going to just focus on what's included with the nonprofit cloud, aka Agentforce nonprofit license. And those are the 10 free licenses that nonprofits get. So you can convert your existing nonprofit licenses into these should you want to. We can talk a bit more about that if anyone wants one-on-one guidance of how to actually accomplish that. With the nonprofit cloud license, or the Agentforce Agentforce nonprofit license, there is several modules that are included with that, including the fundraising module, and that, as we've talked about before, kind of replaces the nonprofit success pack and gives you all the same functionality, which we'll briefly look at today. It also includes program management module. And this is a great way to track non-paid programs that you're kind of getting people referred into, so almost mission work, where you want to track attendance, you want to track enrollment and cohorts, but you're not trying to sell the programs or run them as a normal operational class. So a lot of times people will divide it between the paid stuff and the main programs that you need to track to. Hey, rather than tracking this on a spreadsheet, you could use the program management module within Salesforce nonprofit. It does have a great tie into the case management. So there is case management for programs as well. And it kind of flows it all together into the module they call outcome management, which we'll also look at briefly today. Outcome management is an amazing place to track, your initiatives strategically, and how the programs and things you're doing to trend towards those outcomes all tie together. It has these concepts of indicators. You can put time periods on it, and you can actually track the results that you're hoping to accomplish through the programming you offer. But today, we're going to spend more of our time on volunteer management. We're going to do a deep dive into that, about how it works and what's available now. As we all know, it was released at Dreamforce in the fall, I guess about a month ago now, and there's some great functionality. It appears like it's going to work very well for most of our customers, so I'm excited to see if it works for you guys and if it's a good tie. Obviously, being on the platform, it makes sense because all your constituents and people that might be volunteering are already in the system, and you get all the benefit of the existing functionality of Salesforce. So we urge, as always, everyone to use that. So I'm going to dive into that a little more in a few minutes. Um, and again, available today. It does have components to get to know and engage your volunteers, and it also has the added benefit of using, engagement or Experience Cloud, which is what we use for the Avocado portal to engage your constituents. It also nicely points your managers to that to help manage um, your jobs and your shifts and things like that. So Agentforce for nonprofits, which is different than Agentforce nonprofits. I know it's confusing. So Agentforce nonprofits, aka the former nonprofit cloud, is what we've talked about so far. And we've all heard a lot about Agentforce. Agentforce, the product itself, not the name, but the product itself, Agentforce, is all about agentic, AI, doing more with less, and using artificial intelligence and different components of AI to help manage certain jobs and roles. And there is agents that have been pre-developed for nonprofits. So whenever you see a 4 after Agentforce, it means that it was an Agentforce product that has been developed for the product nonprofit. And a couple of worth mentioning at least are, they do have this nonprofit agent that allows you to track certain things like, people's giving. You can do certain things like prospect research. So they've built an agent that allows you to kind of track and see what the wealth of a person is. It's very specific to this industry, the nonprofit industry, and be able to actually just do quick lookups before you go to meetings with people as part of the fundraising or asking for a major gift or something like that. And this is available already. It's pre-built. The licensing that you have to have for this is Agentforce. So you do get some of that with foundations, and it's worth, in my opinion, trying it in your environment if you're planning on using the nonprofit product, specifically for fundraising. It's a great little engine, and it's included with the Agentforce piece. The other piece that's it's coming in, or is available today, sorry, is participation management. And it allows you to actually, take your participants and kind of understand, based on all the information you have about them, what their goals might be, create referrals to other programming that you actually have, or take incoming referrals and try to assess what their needs are. So as an incoming referral comes in, it can assess it and understand, hey, this person would benefit from this program you offer, or that program you offer, or whatever it might be. Or, hey, you have no programs that are directly tied to this person. You might want to consider an outbound referral, or whatever it might be. And again, that ties all together with the existing case management and tracking and all that. They also, as we mentioned in the last Dreamforce recap, are releasing in February of 2026 a volunteer capacity and coverage agent, and that's specific to the volunteer component. So that's going to take what I'm about to show you today manually and automating it through Agentforce and AI. It looks nice. It's in beta right now, and it appears to do everything that you're going to probably want to do about matching certain volunteers to certain initiatives or certain shifts, certain requirements that you might have for those jobs. But again, I'm going to show you how to do that manually today, and then once this comes out, maybe we can do another demo, and you guys can see how it would work with the agent, the nonprofit or the volunteer capacity and coverage agent. So there's a lot of agents. What we're here to talk about today is volunteer management, mostly, and understand that earlier this year, Salesforce released the volunteer management data model, and that's what we're looking at in front of us right now. And in the spring, we could tell quite a bit about what they were trying to accomplish with this data model. It doesn't take a rocket science to understand that, there's going to be an applications page, there's going to be an intake form, you can just read every object that they built for us and understand that there's functionality that's going to be coming for each of these objects. Now, in at Dreamforce, they released the first version of volunteer management, but they didn't release functionality for every single area that they built this data model out for. I'm going to show you what they have released, and you can kind of put your, draw the lines and connect them and say, okay, it looks like they're going to create more advanced functionality in these other areas because they built a data model for it. That's not to say it's guaranteed to happen, but I'll try to fill in those blanks as we're demoing it a little bit and see what we predict that they're going to come in version 2. Right now we're in version 1, and we'll show you what's available in version 1. So without further ado, I'd like to just dive in and show you a bit about the system. So with a show of hands, has anyone been playing or used the nonprofit cloud, Agentforce nonprofit, any of the modules? Raise your hand if you could. There's a little hand at the bottom. Has anyone seen a demo of it before? Right. So first time, I'll try to go lightly. So in Nonprofit Cloud, it is a Salesforce app. So you always use the app launcher to explore and launch the different apps. I'm going to start by just high level demonstrating fundraising. There's really 2 main applications that they've built with fundraising: fundraising strategy and fundraising operations. Fundraising strategy is really a lot of what already existed in Salesforce, just kind of packaged together for fundraising. So you see, a lot of opportunity management, which is where you would more than likely manage your major gifts. You see your campaigns, which again isn't a new concept. It's the concept that's been around forever. You see all your tasks, and that's all just activity and task management. But you also see the ability to get a little bit of insight into, gift commitments and gift transactions, which we're going to go into fundraising operations. So again, this part of it's going to be very high level until we get into fundraising. So volunteer management. Fundraising operations has all the concepts that we used to have in the former Nonprofit Success Pack. It's kind of been separated out in Nonprofit Success Pack. For those that are aware, it was built using the opportunities object. So while we still use the opportunities objects in Nonprofit, it is mostly used for major gifts now. If you're just managing normal fundraising or campaigns, they suggest that you use gift commitments now. So a commitment is just that. Someone has committed to giving you a gift. They haven't actually given it to you yet, or maybe they're giving part of it, but it's a commitment of the gift. Gift transactions is actually where you see the money coming in, and it's usually associated to a commitment. And they've found a nice little way to tie those 2 things together so you can manage it a little easier than what you used to be able to do in the Nonprofit Success Pack. Gift designations, not much different. It allows you to designate gifts to different GLs for financial purposes and or to different campaigns and such to track where that money is supposed to be allocated towards. They gave you nice little functionalities like gift batches and gift entry. But when you're looking at a constituent, they've given you some great little features like the ability to see a fundraising timeline. So for those that are aware of the functionality that you used to have or you currently have in the activity viewer, and you see a nice little timeline of everything that happens, what they've done is they basically just filtered this by all the fundraising components. So they basically packaged it nicely and kind of tied it together for you. What they've also done in Nonprofit Cloud as part of the Foundations initiative, if you guys remember that from the last few sessions we had, is they packaged other components from other industries. So a good example of that is the Action Launcher, where I believe that came from Health Cloud, so the healthcare industry. They also have activity or action plans. So action plans, for those that are familiar with Nonprofit Success Pack, you used to have engagement plans. Well, they kind of saw that they had enhanced engagement plans for the healthcare industry to create like care plans for patients in hospitals. So they actually exposed that and repackaged it so that you can keep pretty advanced action plans now for all your constituents and your volunteers. And what that really means is you can just create this list of things that you need to do um, when someone passes a certain status. And you can assign those packages of actions or action plans to these individuals dynamically. The reason I tell you that now is because all this functionality I'm sharing with you is across all the different modules in Nonprofit Cloud, including the volunteer module. So you'll see the very similar concept in the volunteer module when we get there. There's not a lot of difference in this. So I'm able to see, again, any actions that I've exposed, any action plans would show up, any interactions and interaction summaries that come. It's a lot more advanced than the old notes we used to be able to have. I can create new interaction summaries that have very advanced, note taking and what the next steps are, and it ties through. And that's true not just of fundraising, but also of all the other modules again. So that's just a bit about the fundraising module. I'm going to, again, keep to my word, try to get you into the volunteer module as fast as we can. Before I do that, there's just two other modules to show you. The second module is the program management module. Program management module has the ability, like I mentioned, to put in all your different programs. And it has some amazing ties to help you benefit from the outcome management module, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I can create benefits that you might receive from taking this program. And they might be virtual, they might be physical, they could be a lot of different things. And those benefits not only tie to programs like you're seeing here, they can also tie to a volunteer position, which we'll see in a few more minutes. I can have a benefit, maybe it's not much of a benefit, but if I'm a bus driver and I need to wear a uniform, I can have a benefit, which is I get a driver's hat, or I get a free membership to an association or something. And that could be a benefit. But for the purposes of this, and when we get to outcome management, these are really benefits that you want to show that you're accomplishing your outcomes. Because we've provided these benefits to these people, our outcomes increased by this much, or whatever you're tracking. You can have benefits on a program, outcome activities on a program. You can have indicator assignments. So you can say, hey, if they're trending this way, if they've actually taken this test and they're got above 5, that's an indicator that they're doing well. And like we said before, you can have action plans and child programs on these programs as well. So this is a bit about the mission, the program missions, like basically things that we're trying to accomplish. We have been working and playing with tying these for one of our clients to avocado programs. So if you were to take an avocado program, here's an instance, a class, here's the tie to the actual program in the back end of Nonprofit Cloud. And in addition to that, we have an amazing module called Outcome Management. Outcome Management allows you to specify an impact strategy, and that impact strategy can be tied to an outcome. So basically, it usually starts right here with an income strategy. You specify that, this is just an example. A strategy might be nutritional education impact. We have a strategy on if people eat healthy, they're healthier, and that's our mission. That's an impact strategy we have. based on that impact strategy, it ties potentially and is assigned to an outcome. And the outcome might be, healthier people or increased participants' knowledge of health foods. It might be something similar. Now, obviously, you can tie it to your own business, but by tying it to an outcome, those outcomes, which again, you can have one or many of them, can be tied to many different things. I can have an outcome tied to activities, which I hope you can see tied to benefits, which tie to programs. So it all kind of flows together. And then you have the same concept of an indicator assignment, and they're always tied to an impact strategy, and you can have assessments around those strategies. So it's a pretty powerful way of getting to the point of, hey, this is what our strategy is. Here's the outcomes we're expecting based on this strategy, and here's how we are tracking those strategies and outcomes. Great model. We've implemented it several times now, and what I'm always impressed with is how well it's designed. It's a great framework. Most people coming from other frameworks, whether it's just an Excel spreadsheet or another system, which we've experienced one of each, resonate with this model. And I'd urge, if you're interested in having a talk about it, I'm very happy to do that with you guys, and we can talk about how what we're trying to utilize from this within the avocado model as well. So that's outcome management. And without further ado, I'm going to be showing you two more interfaces, and we're going to try to dive into these a little deeper because we did promise volunteer management. Volunteer management has this module, which we'll walk through, and then we'll actually walk through the customer interface / volunteer / volunteer manager interface, which is an Experience Cloud site. So we'll start with the volunteer management module. So the volunteer management module really starts with initiatives. It's kind of like the cornerstone of everything. You have volunteer initiatives that you put in, and we're not very creative here, but we definitely know technology, and I'll just say that we put in two. The first volunteer initiative we could think of was maybe you require bus drivers, and maybe you require front desk assistants. So basically, I know you guys have your own models, and probably should have asked, put them in here, but bottom line is those are two initiatives that we thought might resonate with you. From there, you can have different positions that may or may not tie to those initiatives. And those positions are really like job descriptions. They're roles. This is a role we have within our system or within our organization. Job positions means I have a need for this. So a lot of times what I've seen is they're the same. And then sometimes people don't even put in positions, they just put in job descriptions. So it really depends on what you need, because it can be a little bit overkill, at least in my opinion, to put both in. So a job description has a start date, potentially an end date, and it's where we tie shifts and assignments of these particular volunteers to these shifts. So I would never tie a person to a position. I would tie them to a job position. And again, like I said, a job position can have a position tied to it or not. Job position shifts are just that. For this job position, here are the various shifts that I require. And are they coming up? Are they ongoing? Are they in progress? You can have different statuses, and you can type in how many of these you need and want to help you later assign these people to these particular shifts and publicize these particular job positions and shifts. A job position assignment is just that. You've identified that this person has the requirements and the qualifications to meet this role. He's been approved, he or she's been approved, and now you can assign them to this particular job position. And that's basically like scheduling a shift. You can have qualifications that you can track, and that might be, as an example, everyone requires that's going to be driving a bus a Category D license. You might also have here that they have to have a security police check or whatever it is that's in your area that you require to work with children or whatever it might be. This is not an onboarding system, and there has been a couple times that we've experienced a gray line between, is this like a learning management system, an onboarding system? It's really meant to help you track these volunteers coming in and saying, have they taken all the training required? Are they approved? A good example is one of our clients that's implementing this right now. Their insurance doesn't let anyone over 80 volunteer. That sounds terrible, but it's a reality. And they need to not only track this, they have to keep it an ongoing qualification, so that once that person turns 80, they find something else to engage them with, rather than maybe one of the items that they're currently volunteering for. So you can have different qualifications. They can be tied to positions. So you can have a list of all these qualifications and then tie them to a position. Like, we said that the front desk assistant required data entry qualification or assessment, whatever it might be. And then you can tie individuals to a location. And again, it doesn't require you to do this. I'll show you, the user interface for the volunteers and the customers, constituents in a few minutes, but you can expose this to say, hey, yes, I'm available at these locations. So really what this is saying, these people are available at these locations. And there's a very similar model for these people are available, these volunteers are available for these shifts. So you can start to track what the individuals have stated their availability is and when they can work or when they can volunteer. In this case, we just put in a couple individuals that were available in the London location just to show a demonstration. The last thing, you can have position qualifications like we mentioned, but you can also search for volunteers. And this is where it all happens. Not only can I assign an individual, do a job position assignment manually, either on the individual or through this list, I can also just search for an individual like if I'm looking for front desk assistants and I'm looking for a front desk clerk, I can search by the dates they said they're available. If I had qualifications required for this that were not just suggested but required, it would only tie me to individuals that were qualified. And I can search by location of the individual. From here, I can see everyone that's available if they had put in position availability, and I can go in and start assigning individuals to these particular positions. From these assignments, I can go into any one of the areas later to view them, or into the individual to view those assignments. Any questions about that so far? I kind of went through a lot of objects all at once, but just know that the volunteer management has initiatives, positions, job position assignments where I tie the people to them. And then it also has a tracking ability to say, hey, when they actually showed up, and when they ended, so you can track actually hours served. Melissa, you had your hand up.
Hey, sorry, I've been very cold-like and runny nose, so I didn't want to be blowing my nose on camera. So you mentioned that this is not onboarding, right? It's how we track the volunteers. I might be getting ahead of myself. Is there a way to their profiles won't be housed here? I think we had talked about this separately, but will volunteers be able to have a profile in this database?
Absolutely. So when I said, it's not an onboarding system, that's not to say you can't use it to track onboarding. What I wanted to make sure I pointed out was it's not purpose driven for onboarding.
Mhm.
You can definitely create a flow that shows the onboarding flow and all the actions required. But what it doesn't do is serve those courses. So if they're required to take WMIS or working with chemicals for some reason, because they're working in a pool, right? And they have to have working with chemical training. This doesn't serve that course. You have to actually offer that course, and then it could allow you to track that course. There's no doubt there, but it's definitely not a learning management system, and it's not wasn't designed for onboarding.
Mhm.
Probably what
Mhm.
you're using for your employees right now is more than likely more advanced than the volunteer management will presently
Yes, yeah.
take care of.
That said, I mean, if I look at our employee onboarding system, every training that all the trainings that they have to do, like the system that we use links it to another system anyways. So I think that this, yeah, very much I'm understanding that. Okay, it can work. We can do the profiles, we can have all that stuff. So yeah, thanks.
Absolutely, and it's the same profile as a donor,
Hmm.
as your member, constituents, whoever you call them. Um, that's the beauty of putting it all in the same system is you see that they're a volunteer. You see, there's some great concepts of life events now where, you can actually type in these different life events like, hey, they did their first volunteer, give them a badge. Hey, they made a donation. Hey, they've actually taken swim lessons or whatever it might be. You can create your own journeys
Yeah.
and you can put them in any order you want for any years you're expecting them to have them in. So it's kind of they've really rounded the edges on the way it used to work, and I'm impressed personally.
And
Any
last question, sorry.
oh, nice.
Suckers, everyone else is all quiet. Too bad. No. So you had mentioned that you can filter through for like, I need a front desk shift, who is all available. Now, can it be um, like, oh, we need a last minute shift tomorrow. I put a call out to volunteers for who say they are available, or it's just for me to see, and then I individually would pick them.
Yeah, so this matching, volunteer search and results and matching is really meant to just say who do I have.
Okay.
um, Getting a list of everyone who's available or has is qualified and has suggested that they are um, available during this shift would be using native Salesforce functionality. So you would literally just go to your, bear with me, you just go to, I'll try to use a real life example. So these two people have made themselves available in London area. So this isn't the shift one, but this is the location one. It
Hmm.
works the same as the shift one. The only difference is rather than London, it would say shift A. They're available shift A.
Yeah.
So from here, you could send messages, send an email directly to everyone in this particular list. And you'd have to add a button up here that says, send email, and
Hmm.
that's pretty native Salesforce functionality.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions before I just demonstrate the Exchange or Experience Cloud? Yes, Adam.
My question is why it's Agentforce branded. I don't see where the Agentforce is.
Yeah.
Maybe you have comments on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So Salesforce, I'll just go back to the slide here. Um, at Dreamforce, Salesforce rebranded every one of their clouds. Everywhere you see a cloud now at the end of a product name, you erase the cloud and put Agentforce in front of the cloud name. So it's no longer called Service Cloud, it's called Agentforce Service. It's no longer called Sales Cloud, it's called Agentforce Sales. So all the documentation still says Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, Nonprofit Cloud, but they've rebranded. I hope that helps, Adam.
Yeah, no problem. It was mostly like building on the last question around, hey, now I know all the people who are available. I have a list view. Where's the agent who's going to contact them in order and fill my shift?
Yeah. So that is coming with this agent. It's in beta right now, and it's coming in February, where the Agentforce volunteer capacity and recovery agent is meant to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So right now I've only showed you the manual way of doing it. Now, I'm very excited as well to wait for this Agentforce agent that's going to do this for us. We'll see how well it matures. I'm very hopeful though. Any other questions? I'll just dive in and show you the front end if that's so. Oops. So there's no magic to creating an Experience Cloud site that has this functionality. One of the unfortunate pieces that I personally was expecting to see when they released the volunteer management module was the ability to have a pre-built community site. And they didn't give us a pre-built. They told us, oh, you can build whatever you want. So that's great that they can. But for those that aren't aware, both Avocado Portal and many other modules like the Incident Manager use something called Experience Cloud. And Experience Cloud allows you to create one or many sites. So this particular site I threw together, and I think it was about 3 minutes. So that's how fast these sites can be developed. Obviously, you want to refine them and work through the flows before you go, you release anything. But basically, you can create and add as many components as you want to add. So if I wanted to expose any of these components that we just talked about, I can expose those by dropping and dragging simple components onto the page. So if I wanted a record list as an example, I can literally drop and drag that record list. Bear with me while I do this again. I'm not dragging it to the right spot, so just give me a second here. I'll just drag it up here. There we go. Okay. And that component can be configured to show one or none of these particular objects. So if I wanted to show, oops, only my locations, only my job positions, only my assignments, I can basically drop and drag those or configure this to only show those items. And then after I've configured the site, I can publish it, and that site, which can be tied directly into your Avocado portal, can show you, your featured positions, your applications, your availability, and allow your volunteers to type in or select their availability. So you don't have to manually do everything I just showed you. We can expose this to your constituents, especially because you already have the licenses for these particular for this particular product, being the engagement. The Experience Cloud, the portal licenses that you presently have. And again, I can expand it and extend it to anything I want to extend it to. So those are the same positions. I could put in an application to allow me to apply for those particular positions. I can put in my availability so that they can literally select from the preset schedules and shifts that I put into the system. And that's what we've seen most demos from Salesforce show, is just them building this. The other thing that we've seen most frequently is they're using workflows, screen flows, to actually input these. So if you wanted to have someone check in for their shift so that they're there and then they've left, it seems to be the recommendation is starting to use screen flows or expose it through this particular object so that they can literally type in, yes, I've showed up for my shift and, give me credit for my hours that I've spent with you. So again, you can create one or many of these, and that's something that we'd love to do a whole user group on, Experience Cloud and how the sites actually work, because again, I think it's underutilized. There's a whole content management system within Salesforce that you guys get for free. You could host your whole web page on this. You could host sub-sites, staff sites, volunteer sites. You already host your Avocado portal site, and we're hopeful that everyone's starting to use it more and more. I believe the number of sites that you're allowed is in the hundreds. It's got to be, if it's not 200, it's about 130 to 150, and that's a lot of sites. It's pretty amazing what you can do. Yes, Melissa.
For the sites that you were saying that we could use them for staff, do they have to be like full-time staff, like, or full-time staff have emails like that are with our organization, or could it be part-time staff? Because that is something we are trying to figure out right now with Teams. We can't use Teams for our part-time staff.
Yeah. So two things. One, when you log into this site, when the site is published, it can be published as a guest site, meaning you don't have to log in. So if you remember with Avocado, you don't have to log in to see all your program offerings. That's basically operating as a guest user. And this can work the same. But once you want to actually track who this person is and have them in the system as a constituent, then they have to log in. And that requires a community login license. That community login license is what you already purchase when you're using Avocado Portal. So that's one type of license. The second type of license is like a named user license. And if you have people logging in all the time, it's suggested that you use a named user. So not only can you use this for your volunteers, constituents, you could use it for managers as well. And it's interesting because they never really publish that. They don't want to ever tell us that at Salesforce because they want you buying other licenses. But in the case of all the demos that they've been giving about this, they talk about using that same mechanism for your volunteer managers. So I answered it from the volunteer management perspective, Melissa, but the same goes for any site that you might publish.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I hope that answers. Caitlin.
Hello. Sorry, apologies if you have answered this already. I got pulled away right at the beginning of the volunteer management for a minute, so I'm so sorry. But on the line with kind of the logging into the portal and stuff, these are this manager is tied to the regular accounts and contacts objects. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
then if we have people are already creating accounts for Avocado to because we have a lot of volunteers that are very active drop-in fitness participants and things like that as well. So they use our services a lot and then also volunteer. So theoretically they would just need their one kind of login that they use for the portal currently, and that would let them into, okay, same username and password. That's so awesome. I love that. I love that.
And you can tie them between the sites. So right on the top of Avocado menu, you can, have a button that says volunteer now, and it takes them, obviously this isn't branded with your colors. You don't want to brand it, but you can brand it and you can make it function any way you want.
And for the that community, and I think I'm not super familiar with the guest user setup of an experience site, but you could technically set up a kind of homepage that if they haven't logged in, it kind of brings them to just the basic homepage of the volunteer site, and then once they log in, they can kind of see more specific details. Is that you can kind of control what guests see versus what people who have logged in see when you create an experience site?
Yeah, it'd be different pages. So essentially, in the system, you have this concept of pages.
Right.
You basically, we're only on the home page right now, right? But you basically would have, this is the guest page, and then if they were if you needed a certain action, like them to be able to see their profile or apply, they would then be forced to log in.
Gotcha. Okay, that's awesome. I agree. It would be cool if Salesforce had provided some sort of like template or something for the volunteer manager, just
It
because
would.
it's like when you just have like a blank slate, it's like, whoa, what do I do? But it is nice that there's so much customization in that sense as well.
I have it on fairly good authority that they're going to. And they've alluded to it for a while. One of the individuals who's really close to the team actually was the system engineer that we worked with one of our clients, and he's really he's in the know, and he's built something that looks, it's not rocket science. It just has the ability to apply, see your approval, see the jobs, put in your availability. It's really only like 5 things that they need to do, or at least he's building that they need to do. Prove that you have your security check, upload it. Those types of things are pretty powerful to allow them just to do on their own. And he's already built a site. I believe he's going to be exposing it to everyone through the means of Salesforce, but I think it just takes time for him to get it through those channels.
Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, a lot of this is like kind of just coming out. So we'll see these new kind of features get introduced over time, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about the agent. I don't know if anyone's seen a demo of it, but it looks pretty slick. The demos in the early days in the beta, they tend not to hit the edge cases. So we're hopeful that in February that it's more rounded and it works a little better. So we'll see. Excellent. Any other questions? We're very excited. We're happy to talk to anyone about our experiences with this so far, if you're interested. The setup instructions, like we've mentioned before, are fairly well documented. It's not a simple setup, and I don't know if you remember what I said the last time, but essentially, the way I envision or I see it, having done it a few times now with engineers, it's because they're using the foundations, the pieces of other industries. It's a little bit of configure this piece, then configure this piece, and then configure this piece. So literally, it's about 30 things to configure. Which seems really confusing at first because you have to apply this permission and then a second permission and then a third permission. So it gets quite confusing when you're standing back trying to absorb it all. But if you just go step by step on their instructions, it works fairly well, and it's not overly complicated if you're just looking at one step at a time. But we're happy to give you our experience and also to assist if you ever need assistance. Yeah. That's all I had to show you guys today. I hope everyone sees the potential, because there's definitely a lot of potential, and we're happy to talk about any paths, because people that are already on Salesforce, you will need to talk about what the path is, especially if you're using Nonprofit Success Pack already. If you're using that already, there is a migration that has to happen. One of the most technical things that I don't want to dive too deep into is they do rely on something called a person account. And a person account, I urge you not to Google it because there's a lot of opinions about it, but a person account is kind of removing the concept of an account and a contact and just putting it into one. And a lot of industries, a lot of the other clouds, other areas that they stole these features from, used person accounts. So they require person accounts. And it's not a huge problem. It's just a mind shift. You have to think differently about how you use it now. And once you get used to it, I'll just point out that first, I know personally, and everyone that I dealt with at TechShare and Avocado, it's kind of like writing with your wrong hand at first. You're like, ooh, it seems wrong. But then once you get used to it, it actually opens some doors. So I would urge everyone to just be aware of that. Thanks. Well, for our next session, we're always open to hearing what you guys want to hear. I know we're coming into the holiday season, so I'm not sure if we will be doing any user group in excuse me, December, but I know in the new year in January we'll be hitting the road running. I think something around Agentforce is in order, for sure, because there's been so much press about it and it's matured so much. Thank you to everyone who came, and by all means, reach out if you need anything.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for walking us through this. It's awesome.
Of course.